And now, coming to you from the Pensado Media Center, powered by Westlake Pro.
How innovation can take you all over the world. Our guest will show you how. Pensado and YouTube team up in Nashville. Details coming. A brand new ITL from Dave himself. You're at the place. It's Pensado's place.
Hey everybody, thanks for dropping by. Good to see you guys. It's always a better day when I'm here with Herb and you guys.
It is.
And Sean Gorin,
yeah, it's a good week.
JD and the gang.
You have a good week so far?
Yeah.
You've been busy, dude. You've been busy. We got a little trip coming up though.
Yeah,
to
I can't
our favorite
wait.
place. Exactly. Shall we get to it?
Yeah.
Cool. Hey gang, as Dave said, it is so good to see you. We always enjoy this part of our week. Also thanks to the best partners ever, the Blackbird Academy, Westlake Pro, Avid, DTS, Lander, and Fab Factory. Dave and I and the team are so excited to head to Nashville, one of our favorite places.
Absolutely.
We're partnering with YouTube and their pop-up event, which is called YouTube Spaces. We're going to interview an incredibly talented badass, the one, the only Luke Laird, hit makers for folks like Carrie Underwood, Blake Shelton, Casey Musgraves, Hunter Hayes, Eric Church, and so many more, literally so many more. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Grammy winner, Song of the Year winner, Country Album of the Year. This guy is just not only a talented creative person, has a great business down there, and he's going to come and share with you. He's excited to join us, and we're excited to interview him.
For sure.
So come meet him and us at the YouTube space, which is Red Pepper in Nashville. That's going to be August 24th. The doors open at 5. We'll do our interview thing. Dave and I are going to bring some gifts for lucky folks.
We
like
buy
to do
love.
that.
We have to buy that love.
We have to, man. And then we're going to do a hang at a happy hour so you can meet us, you can meet Luke, and most importantly, we can meet you.
Yes.
It's a super cool hang provided by YouTube and Pensado's Place. It's RSVP only, so move right away. Go to this URL and sign up. It's really simple. bit.ly/YouTube Nashville. That's all you got to do. Get there in a hurry. Pensado on YouTube in Nashville, and we be rocking. I'm excited
This is going to be a little more intimate than our normal one, and so we really look forward to them coming by. Just to hang,
and come hang with us. I think the happy hour is going to be for a while, and we're going to hang out and do our thing. And you, my friend, have got a brand new ITL. What you got?
I showed you a couple of things that you might enjoy.
Let's run it.
Sometimes I like to share things with you that I just know work, and this is one of those I've been using my entire career in the analog world, and now that we're in the digital world. I want to play a song for you as an example from my friend Mac Montgomery with the group Denim, D-E-N-M, and Benjamin Groff at Brill Building is the man in charge. So, as always, you can use this on piano, you can use it on vocals, you can use this technique on a lot of things. I'm going to go down here to the kick drum real quick. This is an excellent technique for drums. Now here's what I had. Here's just a classic parallel. You've seen me talk about it. Nothing high fancy. And a little bit of EQ. There's a chance you might see a lot of red going on, but don't panic. I'm a professional. I know how to handle the red. So check this out. That particular technique of an over-compressed parallel chain is a good thing. Where am I? 15. I was probably running at about 13. So this is my old school one, and I use this a lot. I wanted to show you with just a generic cheapo plugin, right? So here we go. Let me show you what the plugin's doing. This is going to scare you, I hope, because you're going to go, that can't possibly sound good, Dave. Well, you might be right. Let's see. So here's just what the plugin's doing. Now, there's a couple things I want you to pay attention to. The release, listen to the distortion. Now notice we're squashing the hell out of this poor thing. So let's get the attack a little more. Okay. Now let's add that back in. Now let's put some of that distortion in and see if we can hear it. But watch what we're doing. You gotta love that. You gotta love that. Try it on a bunch of stuff, let me know. All right, bye.
We recently had a conversation with a really talented friend of ours. We got to know him pretty well. We like him a lot. What's fascinating about our guest is his hunger for innovation has really taken him around the world with the biggest names and in a lot of different ways. Yeah. He's a great dude. Please enjoy our conversation with the one, the only, David Benson.
David.
Hey, bro.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Good.
And guys, thank you so much for developing this community, too. I just wanted to say how grateful I am to be here and just to be able to have this resource for everybody. It's truly amazing.
Thank you so much.
That is probably enough reason for us to do it, you know, to hear from guys like yourself, particularly guys like you who have always stayed on what you call the bleeding edge of technology. Even, you know, technology is in vogue now. But for back in the day, there were some people who would embrace it and some people who would be resistant to it. And you've always been somebody who embraced it, right? Always pushed the envelope?
Absolutely. Sometimes not by choice.
Yeah, that's true, right?
You know,
some of us are forced there.
Yeah. When I was coming up in bands up in the Bay Area, I was a bass player and I had the van. So typically that meant not only am I hauling the gear, but I'm also owning the PA, figuring stuff out. My dad gave me tape recorders when I was a kid, so I would always play around with that stuff. So one way or the other, I'm the guy who's ended up soldering the chords when they're not working.
Exactly, exactly. And that curiosity not only has never stopped, but it has also been a predicate to your amazing career, like incorporating that knowledge, figuring out what works for you, because you always found a way to bring it back so that music was the master it served as opposed to music serving the technology. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Story always starts with the music.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But then the journey of how to get there, sometimes it's easy with a guy with a guitar, he can write a song. Other times, you've got these other little tools that some people don't know about. I was very lucky that I was early in the MIDI game when there were just a few guys in town who were really doing these things, when we had racks of synthesizers as big as your monitor, here, literally crazy racks. And I was very fortunate that I was able to kind of get into that at the right time. And for me, that just led to be able to make more music in easier and better ways. And now, like you said, it's kind of everybody does everything. You don't need these guys anymore to do the programming because you just buy the plug-in or push the preset.
But where you guys are simpatico, besides your gorgeous manes of hair.
Well, thank you, dear.
Yeah, my pleasure, honey. The thing that you, as long as I've known you, when you pushed working inside the box, when you used to catch hell for that position, that you always...
Yeah, I think, thanks for bringing that up. I think when someone somewhere isn't pissed at what you do, maybe you need to think about doing more, you know? I think there's always resistance from the current people in power, or the status quo, as we say. There's always resistance, and that helps, you know?
But your embracing of it was really about, you saw it as a way to not only enhance your work, but both of you saw it as a way to get to serving the music master that you both were tasked?
I just got tired of having ideas I couldn't execute and get to come through the speakers. There were some songs I had big records with that I spent 6 and 7 and 8 hours just doing a handful of vocal throws. I mean, delay throws. Now it's 5 seconds. You know?
I remember very well the days, even the days before Recall, when it was a Polaroid camera and you're taking pictures of the console, trying to, you know, okay, what's the EQ on channel 15? And, you know, have to, you got to literally I know you know too, Dave. You know, they'd have the sheets with each piece of outboard gear. You go through and you mark on each piece. You know?
God, you just brought back.
I think creativity, and in particular creativity in music, requires somewhat of not so much a celebration of the tools and techniques to make it, but an understanding that any tool can be used to make music, and a good musician would master them all. And then when you sit down to play poker, and I'm mixing a metaphor, when you sit down to play poker, all the cards count for you, and that's the easier way to win than when you only choose some analog cards or some digital cards or this card, that card.
I love to see the way that it's coming back around, just like for the consumers, how vinyl is all of a sudden a thing now. Now we all appreciate the sound of vinyl. And,
that's mostly when Jack White releases a record. But
you know, listen, he is killing it back there. I love everything that they're doing back there. Even recording in that goofy little phono booth, I think it's great. It all serves the music eventually.
I like his work.
This idea of coming back around with the vinyl, and then on our side, it's, you know, all of a sudden everyone wants to have analog tape machines and all this kind of stuff. It's all the same thing in terms of, is it better, is it worse? No, it's just another thing. Now, maybe technically, it's not as good as some digital stuff, but if the vibe is right, if it puts the musician, the singer, us, whoever, if it gets you in the space to create the thing, then that's the right tool.
In our profession, hasn't it always been something? Like, I remember when I started my career, transformers were nasty things, so all the manufacturers yanked out all their transformers. Then it was capacitors, so we had Neotech come in, no capacitors, and then these tubes were just old. I found an LA3A in the 2A in the dumpster because nobody wanted tubes anymore. and then when I move out here, and it's Neve versus SSL, like you either were a Neve guy or SSL guy.
Because it was kind of like gangs. I remember Neve versus SSL. Like,
so it's always something, and those are perpetuated by the people that don't know the other side. So the SSL guys didn't know how to run a Neve. The Neve guys mostly didn't know how to run an SSL. The analog guys need to spend a little more time in the digital space. The digital guys, the young cats, need to spend a little more time in the analog space and learn all the tools. And then when you sit down, the music flows out of that experience, you know?
Well, I love, it was, I think it was Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, one of these guys. They had this saying where it was like, you know, learn your instrument up and down, learn the whole repertoire, learn all the charts, and then just forget all that shit and play the music. And I think that's really true on all sides of this argument, you know? I don't care if it's an SSL. I've made records with a silly Mackie console. You know, it doesn't really matter what the tool is as long as it's getting you to the final place.
And you know what?
It's always going to be something.
No, but I'm just saying, all the talented people like yourself who sit to Dave and I's left, generally at some point in time, particularly if they've had the kind of success that you've had, and even guys up and coming who are smart about it, get back to that point. You can be as technical and as proficient as you want, but if you don't respond to how you feel, how it makes you, how it moves you, if you don't sort of connect to that emotional thing about music, you're missing the point. Like, you're missing the opportunity to make it better and to connect to more people when you pay attention to that master.
The listener is not going to care what kind of desk it was cut on, or if it was tape or digital.
No question.
They don't care about any of that stuff. They just care how it makes them feel in the moment.
Right, right. In your career arc, you were up in the Bay Area, you came down here, you started doing your thing. When did it feel, what was the breakthrough record that all of a sudden you went, oh, wait, this is doing pretty well. I think I'm going to do this as a career. Was there a moment?
Well, I came to LA initially trying to be a studio musician, bass player, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go down there and just kill it, you know. Of course, you get down here and you realize that the competition, you know, as far as I could throw you, I could hit 5 other great musicians.
100%.
And so at some point, it's just kind of like, okay, well, maybe this isn't quite working out. I had an audition at Disneyland one time. You know, somebody said, hey, they're looking for bass players to play in the Tomorrowland stage or some goofball thing, right? So I go down to Disneyland, go to this hotel ballroom, thinking, okay, I'm just going to go in and play with a band or whatever. There's there's 200 bass players in a ballroom. They're calling them in one by one. I'm like, well, okay, I didn't get the gig, obviously.
Right.
And so I thought, I got to do something else. I need some other kind of plan B here, right? So luckily, I took a gig at Guitar Center, of all things, just to pay the rent.
Sure.
This was right in the time of MIDI.
Yeah.
I met up with some great people who kind of referred me out. I was writing manuals for Yamaha, and the next thing you know, I'm working with this guy, a songwriter who had just come to town from New York, up in Barham Boulevard there in a little one-room studio. So I put a little MIDI room together, and for years, we were in there like trying to crank out commercials or whatever.
Sure.
Great thing that happened is it turns out that his best friend from way back in the day was Bruce Willis, who was just having this hit in Moonlight.
Yeah,
right?
I remember.
So Motown comes and says, hey, Bruce, let's make a record. I mean, what business does this guy have making a record?
Right.
Actually, he's a pretty good musician. He plays great harmonica.
Right.
And so he asked, of course, his best buddy, hey, can you do this record? Sure. So next thing I know, we're in the studio, and I'm like, okay, this is great. I kind of like this.
Yeah.
We're at Schnee's place. It used to be Schnee's place over on Lancashire, recording with the best studio musicians. And here comes Mavis Staples and the Staples singers, Pop Staples with the guitar. They're in the other room, couldn't respect yourself. And I'm like, wait a second.
Hold it.
This is way more fun being on this side of the glass.
The bass player Disneyland thing, maybe not.
No, this is way better. So I think I'm gonna check this out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that was a real light bulb for me. It's like, I knew all the technical stuff. I've been doing plenty of recording and stuff over time, but this was like something else. This was a feeling that was happening, not just a gig. It was a feeling.
Right.
You know?
And I think you always allude to this, and you just described it. It isn't a straight course from point to A, point B. It's all over and you got to take the ride, man.
You bet. This is not the LA street grid. This is the biggest mountain, craziest mountain road that you're going to go.
The weirdest thing, Herb, I'm going to add an addendum to that, is all of that ultimately kind of takes you back to where you started. Because all the things I couldn't do after a few big records, I suddenly was asked to do those things, you know? Like people that never should have hired me, and it's weird how life works.
Well, you just end up, and it's true whether you're creative or a business person or whatever, but you only get back to where you need to be if you follow the path. Some people step off, some people change it, and maybe that's right for some people, but you'll never know unless you take the ride.
And you never know where that path is going to lead you.
Never know.
Because it seems like every time when I look back, it's like, wow, how did that gig even happen?
Yeah.
And I realized it had nothing to do with the way that I thought it was going to happen.
How many times have we sat in here, Herb, and heard. How many times have we heard someone say, well, the so-and-so didn't show up, I got the gig, and now I'm doing...
325 times.
And now I've got a 4th episode Jimmy Iovine, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But everybody, that seems to happen. At least half the guests is how they started.
Well, I mean, in your journey, I'm bouncing around a little bit, but I mean, you went and did stuff in Russia, right?
This was the crazy thing, is literally I had a dream about doing something in the Soviet Union. Literally a dream.
Wow.
And this was right in the time in the mid-'80s when things were just starting to open up over there.
Yeah. And
I just said, okay, this is telling me something. I've got to at least go down the path and say to myself, this is possible.
Right.
And kind of my initial goal was, I want to go find a band in the Soviet Union, bring them to the West, and do something kind of interesting. Sure. Well, it ended up being a 3-year adventure that was really unbelievable. Everything from learning to speak Russian in my crazy way that I tried to.
So you lived there for 3 years?
Off and on for 3 years. Wow. Took a band from here on a tour with a major artist over there. Started the first independent record label, and maybe the least musical but most interesting thing was, how do you get the money out of the Soviet Union? Because there was absolutely no currency exchange, nothing like that. So we started a plywood business of all things, and a cassette business. So we were taking cassettes, winding cassettes, selling them, then buying into a plywood manufacturing plant, and then selling that plywood to Finland.
That's presidential, actually. Wow.
Well, listen, I mean,
more ways than one.
That's
okay. So now here comes the epilogue. The epilogue is that I had an investor, of course, and I remember very clearly New Year's Eve, 1990, being at this big Russian-style hotel in Moscow. We got a band there, the business is rolling, everything's starting to happen, and he comes and he says, oh, and plus, by the way, we had bought Freddie Perrin's old studio in Studio City, so we had a full-on studio going here and everything, right? It was all great. He comes to me and he says, well, just letting you know, I'm leaving tomorrow, all the money's gone, and studio's closing. Of course, comes to find out that, this guy had been drugging his wife. He was a sexual predator.
Wow.
He disappeared off the face of the earth. I came back 2 weeks later. The studio was closed. All the equipment was gone. It was like, okay, now where do you start?
Right.
This comes back to the winding road, because what happened is I just did my little networking thing, talked to some friends, and somebody said, hey, you know what? I know a guy who might need some help on some touring stuff. Oh, okay, sure. What's the deal? Well, go down to Culver Studios, and they might be able to use it for some programming. Well, that was Don Henley, right?
Just somebody.
Just Don Henley. Then the next thing was a Stevie Nicks tour, where I met this guy, an incredible friend of mine, John Bunker. I owe him a lot, this guy, because he was, literally, I was doing programming, humping cases, loading trucks, whatever it took. I just needed to make the rent, right? And this guy, John Bunker, God bless him, he said, look, I've got another tour coming up. Maybe you want to come on that. Now, this is just coming off of Henley and Stevie Nicks, big shows.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. What's the gig? Well, it's Barry Manilow. And I was like, what? That guy's still around? I don't know, man. I don't know. He said, no, it'll be great. It'll be a good time. So I went on this Manilow tour, and boy, was I shocked, because this guy, Barry Manilow, is the real deal,
and
man.
he did it big.
It was huge, and it was a great tour, because it was his music kind of transformed and combined with Broadway music. So it wasn't just him going out and playing his hits.
Right.
It was him playing his hits in Broadway styles, and really, really interesting.
There were always extravaganzas. They were
unbelievable, that guy. And today, this guy is doing a second show in D.C. at the huge sports center. He is still killing it. But the crazy winding road is, it's like, I don't know about this tour, to now I've had literally 6 albums in the top 5 with that guy.
Hey, that's amazing.
And some other incredible experiences with him, for sure. So.
And even in that process, there's one album that's like virtual duets, right? Is that?
This was a crazy thing. Somehow I get a lot of calls about just impossible missions. I mean, crazy stuff that doesn't even seem possible. So he called me with this idea that he came up with Jay Landers, who was the A&R guy at Verve at the time. He said, look, we got this idea. We want to do some duets, with some other singers, but the other singers aren't going to be around. Okay, that's fine. I mean, yeah, sure, we've done that before. You go get the masters and pull the vocal and everything. And then he added a little twist to it. All these singers are dead.
So they're not going to be around.
They're not going to be around, and most of the source material is going to come from some kind of crazy format, because it's going to be everything from Jimmy Durante in a movie from the 40s to Andy Williams in the late 50s on a 3-track to, all these kind of crazy things. So how do you even accomplish such a thing?
Sure.
Well, luckily, Jay Landers had done a project with David Foster with this amazing company, Audionamics, and they had developed some software, really interesting stuff. Originally, at least this is a story that I got, originally it was designed to take movie soundtracks, the music part, and remove that and then use it for a different soundtrack in a different country. So the idea of separating out 2-track audio or 4-track audio. Pretty interesting, pretty incredible, right?
Yeah, no, we like those guys.
They're great.
We've been impressed with
And I tell you, Rick Silva and his team were amazing, because we came to these guys with, you can't believe the shape of the stuff. I mean, literally just...
I can only imagine.
Because you can't even find the masters for... That's a big shock, as a side note. So, we were looking for stuff from the Mamas and the Papas. We were looking for stuff from Judy Garland. I mean, the more modern things, you would have think, okay, there's going to be some good quality master somewhere, right?
Right.
A lot of this stuff has been lost.
Wow.
It's incredible. So, like Mamas and Papas, you would think that there's at least going to be some good quality 2-track master. It came off a CD. That's where we could find it.
So when you're doing that, you're re-recording the song, right? And so you've got the ability to put Barry on the song, correct?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so you're re-recording the song. Then at some point you have this separated vocal that you've got from artists, the guest artists, let's say. Now, that's going to be a whole different ball game. How do you match them up in the song? Is it through with Audionamics? You've got a vocal that's very well separated, but it's still probably less than what Barry sounds like. So how do you make a modern recording of a vocal sound like the limitations that we had from before? I'm trying to be polite saying a shitty vocal, but
it's just shitty quality.
Yeah. You know, how do you make that work within the same song?
Well, first of all, it starts with it always starts with the idea of the song, right? So Barry had an idea, and he's just a genius at this stuff. So instead of just do the song just like the artist did, I mean, it'd be easy to just take the recording. In fact, this is some of the early stuff that happened. You probably all remember the Natalie Cole and Nat King Cole.
Yeah.
That was the same but different process in that she basically just kind of used the same arrangement and not the same track, they did a new track, but it was basically the same song. So if there was a little bleed from the old thing, it wasn't a problem. Barry's idea, which I think is really great, is he said, no, I'm gonna take these songs and completely rearrange them. So it could be a different key. It could be a different, whole different structure for the song, which he did, and really clever stuff. So now we've got that. Then we've got this great separation that we got from Rick Silva and Audionamics, which varied in quality because sometimes, like we did a Jimmy Durante tune, it was off of a DVD of a film, right? So that's pretty bad quality, and it's missing a lot of the sonic quality that we're used to these days. All the way to a John Denver song where...
How'd you fix that?
Well, I give a lot of credit to Bill Schnee, who mixed that record. Because, I mean, my buddy Greg and I, we kind of handle all the pre-production up to the mix, and a lot of times we're speeding up, slowing down, sometimes having to tune. This is all kind of standard stuff, but you've really got to keep it at a high quality because you know it's just going to get degraded the farther you go down the line, right? So we did everything to try to keep intact the things that Audionamics gave us back. We didn't want to change their sound.
In the digital space, that's not that hard.
Not that hard.
But did you ever find that you needed to make Barry sound worse in order to make them sound the same?
Yes, and that was a real point of contention because that's really, a lot of times, the only way that it's going to sound normal. Is, you know, Barry likes a lot of highs in his voice. But when when it sounds like this, if you've got one guy that sounds really great and another guy that just sounds muddy, that's not going to work in the song at all. So there's that middle ground that you have to kind of make it work and then make it work with the new track because it's all new track.
Can I toss in something that maybe, I don't know, I think this is kind of cool. A lot of you guys don't know who Barry Manilow is, but every time you hear and do a pop record, you owe him a little bit of a debt of gratitude because when Barry came along, he was really gifted at commercials, and commercials require the ability to grab you with just a phrase, with just something really quick. And that's kind of what a pop song does, right?
Absolutely.
And so he took that gift and just owned the commercial world. But then he started using that gift to make records, and we all did not want to like them, but we couldn't help but go around singing Copacabana or all these other songs. So what happened was the labels realized that the music they're releasing is actually a commercial for the artist. And so that's when popular music was born, out of that moment when a commercial guy started making records. It kind of made everybody think, well, that's what we need to do. We need to make commercial records.
Yeah, I mean, he is really gifted us all.
And we don't give him credit for that.
Well, he's gifted us so many things that you don't realize, just like you said. But the two big things that I always think about is the power snare. When you hear these on everything from old pop songs to Metallica to any of this kind of stuff, when you hear these giant snares, that was him. He always pushed for that. And the other is, anytime you hear a modulation in a pop song, you just have to tip the hat to that guy because, and it's funny because his career, he never wanted to be a big star. It was never his goal. He just wanted to be an arranger. That's really what he loves. So when you look at his songs, they're constructed. It's such a piece of art when you really dig in there and you realize, you know.
Don't listen to him because you'll start singing them and then you'll fall asleep having to get them out of your head. He knows how to get you. I guess maybe that's what some of songwriters today are striving
Did he
for.
collaborate when he wrote, or was it mostly him?
Well, it's funny because a lot of his songs, most of his songs are actually collaborations with other writers, and he covers a lot of great songwriters
that's
too.
true. That's true.
So he kind of does the whole gambit like that. But he always, no matter what, he's always going to put his flavor and his arrangement on it. That's his genius that a lot of people don't understand, is him as an arranger. It's just, he's amazing.
And he has been working for over 40 years. Just
incredible
just
career.
Amazing. I mean, just really
What did you do with Eric Clapton?
Eric was one of my my road experiences. I did a couple of tours with him, and that was a very, very interesting experience because here's a guy. I mean, I've always loved Clapton, but then when you're in the room with the guy, and he had the great, I mean, Steve Gadd on drums, Nate East on bass, just an amazing band.
Yeah.
Was this like pre or post heroin Clapton?
Post.
Oh, cool.
Definitely post. Very together guy,
Yeah.
and such a sweetheart. Really, really great guy. But just to be in, like 2 different times, we were like a week in the
He's a
rehearsal
very
room.
generous person too, and he always lets other people do solos and stuff.
Oh yeah, we did. The last thing I did was a 70th birthday celebration for him at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, cool.
And he had Derek Trucks. He had who else was on that thing? John Mayer came and played. Just an amazing group, and he's very generous with that.
Yeah, there's not a guitar player alive that doesn't openly acknowledge a debt to Clapton.
Absolutely.
Openly.
So this was during the Tears in Heaven kind of phase?
Past that.
Oh, it was after that.
Yeah,
Got
the last thing we did, the 70th birthday, was probably 3 years ago.
Oh, I got you.
it
Oh,
was
that's
pretty
really
recent.
recent.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like you said, the winding road. I jump in and out of all these things.
love it.
Like next week I'm at Capitol, and the week after that I'm loading a truck in Florida or something. I mean, it's just.
Listen, I think that is not only a blessing. It signifies having a really lush career where you have to satisfy all these things inside you. We talk about it all the time. We're so lucky to not do one thing. We have a lot of different things to do. It tires you, but it's just your capacity, and it's interesting, and it's a blessing. Right?
Never bored.
Never bored. And, yeah,
Never
absolutely,
bored.
Absolutely. Now, Chauncey, you got a couple questions for our guests?
We do. To stay in the vein of Barry, this first one's from our own James Eden. What was the most surprising part about working with Barry and the actual recording process?
Well, like I said, first of all, the arrangements and the way that this guy puts together a song and knows when it's right, it's great. Now, the other thing that I think is really interesting about Barry is that I've never cut a vocal with that guy.
Really?
But I have set him up at his house in Palm Springs. So, and he's really good with the technology. He's learned very quickly, and over the years, this guy has no problems with any of that stuff. So he literally will cut and comp all his vocals on his own, and I love that about him. I love that because who better to know if it's hitting the mark? I mean, sure, if there's a problem or if there's something that's not quite right,
That's right.
I'll tell him, hey, maybe you should do this one over, or maybe you should change this a little bit. But for the most part, this guy knows what he wants, and I say, let him do it.
And the beauty of it is, if he gets mad at himself.
Absolutely. And he can record his vocal at 3 a.m. in his underwear, and if that's when he's feeling the best, great.
Perfect. Absolutely. Give us another, Chauncey.
This one's from our own Talisha Romero. What does your creative process look like, and how do you catch a vibe working with so many different artists?
Wow, okay. Vibe is the most important thing, I think. And sometimes I think what you've got to do is, as a producer, sometimes in these big sessions, I've always felt that my job is like to be a good party host, essentially. I want to set it up so that everybody's feeling comfortable, especially when we're doing big sessions, like, we'll do sessions at Capitol where we're using A and B, and you might have 70 musicians, and you just see the money pouring out from the budget. A lot of stress, but the great thing to do, I think, is always to just try to set a great vibe, make everybody comfortable, have a good laugh, and then good stuff's going to come from that.
Let the magic happen.
And sometimes that's everything. I mean, it could mean a lot of times what I'll do is I'll get a wardrobe person. Let's say we're doing songs from the 60s. Okay, then bring me a bunch of 60s costumes, and
that's cool.
I'll dress up in a 60s costume. Just so that it takes a little of that pressure off. But it also, I think, keeps again the story consistent, which is we're telling a story here. Come on, let's have some fun and tell that story.
Yep, absolutely. No, the thing about your career path, and I want you to prepare. Oh, you look prepared. You're over there looking a little smug. Like you stretching. Absolutely. But one of the things that I love about your career, and as we've gotten to know you, is that it's you know, there's a whole bunch of intellect into it, and there's a whole lot of intuition too. Like you're comfortable with listening to yourself and following your gut and all that kind of stuff. And we try to tell our audience all the time, you have to unstick yourself from being so, you gotta let it in. Absolutely. In order for it to come out.
To me, I think the most important thing that anybody can do in this business is just shut up and listen.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Man. Your ears are bigger than your lips.
And not just for the music. You got to listen to all these other things that are going on and the people that you're working with.
Yep.
You know,
we've learned a lot. We've all had a chance to work with some real notables, and the best of the best realize that the genius is in getting to simplicity.
Absolutely.
It's hard to be. It's easy to be complicated. It's hard to be simple, and be able to have that simplicity touch people, you know, and that really comes from what you're saying, listening, vibe, your intuition, connecting with people. That's where the meat is.
Right. Know the technology, know all the terms, but then forget about all that stuff and just get to the story.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like with the audionamic stuff and the things that we've done, and we've turned a lot of people onto it who really like the technology, but they've all come back and said it allows them to use it in a way where they can still be expressive and find that place where the music is served as opposed to the technology being served. And that says a lot about the technology, the intuition of it, and the intuitiveness of it.
And I mean, those guys especially, I love the fact that they may have started in one place, and then when we hooked up with them, they were more of a service company, where, you know, we gave them material and then they did their magic and handed it back. And now they've moved into this other thing, which is more of a, not consumer, but, you know, for user software. So users can do things with their thing. Yeah. And it allows a conversation to take place, you know what I mean, as opposed to just, well, here's another plug-in. Nobody needs just another plug-in, but it gets people into a space where something they couldn't think of before.
We turned the guy who won a Grammy for the soundtrack to Hamilton onto it, and he emailed me right back saying, "Herb, this is incredible, and this, that, and the other, and I bought some." And so when you see folks like that who have all kinds of stuff available to them, but it stands out, it says a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like your baseball pitching ability, which you look very comfortable.
I got this in the bag.
Lathered up, yeah.
Big man, I'm gonna win one for us.
Smell in a minute.
I'm not gonna let you down.
Hey, brother. Then let's roll, and you batter up, and
I was gonna wear my jersey, you know, but today, I think
part of my strategy is I'm gonna change the rules.
Without telling anybody.
Well, I'll tell him right now.
Okay, cool.
So we're gonna do a little different. I'm gonna name something, and because you're such a good problem solver, I want you to tell me in terms of a mix or a live event or an engineering session, how would you solve something that was wrong with this particular
solution-based batter spots.
This particular entity or thing I'm about to say, and we will start with reverbs.
Where's the problem?
And that's the show. Thank you.
Bastard. Too much high end in a vocal.
Just subtractive, always, with EQ.
Muddy bass.
Replace the bass.
Too much 2K, harsh vocal. But only in the choruses, not in the verses.
Wow. Ooh. I have to break out that hardware GML EQ.
Surgery needed on low end.
Wow. Leave it to the mastering guy.
I should stop, shouldn't I?
No, it's getting better.
Okay. Not enough knock in a kick drum.
Then you better just put something else on there. Replace it. Replace the kick drum.
Stereo bus.
Leave room for the mastering engineer.
Clarity.
Not going to find it in this business.
You suddenly found out that you put too much salt in your tomato sauce.
I leave the cooking to my wife.
I was going to say high blood pressure.
I can keep going, but it's pointless. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
But it's an interesting exercise to watch you sort of process all the different solutions and come back. That was a good idea and job well done.
Thank you. I didn't lose then?
No. Okay. Dave is 0 and 325. So, but it's okay. He may have won one.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either, actually.
We got smart guests.
And smart hosts.
One of them, at least. So, the one in black.
Can I just mention that,
Will Smith?
Is that part of the batter's box?
No.
Men in Black.
But I just wanted to mention that, I love this show. I'm a big fan. And I sit out on my patio and watch the show. Now, my wife's out there sitting at her table. She has nothing to do with the audio space, could care less, doesn't ever want to come to the studio, right? But she'll ask me every night, do you have any more of those audio engineer things that you listen to? She loves this show. She loves you guys.
Does she watch it or just listen?
She just listens to it.
That's crazy.
And I swear to God, she loves you guys so much.
You make an interesting point. We have
said hello.
Yeah, please tell her to say hello. And she's invited anytime she wants. And she can sit in the other room and just listen to us.
Can she bring the tomato sauce?
She can. A little less salt, though.
She's Italian, so.
Oh, no, we like that. Well, sauce means different things in Italian.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. But one of the constant things that, our team will tell us, our marketing and social media team, is we end up having a very diverse audience. And you can serve one, and then you piss off the other, you piss off one, you serve the other. And so we're always trying to serve them all. And some of it is the real technical people who want information, and some of it are people who want aspiration or inspiration, and some of it is whatever it may be. But we think that going after the whole enchilada and it confirming us that works when somebody like your wife, we have a lot of people who are not audio people who go, God, I found it interesting.
Yeah.
And those aren't necessarily the people who want to know about rolling off 2K, but might find the fact that you broke the barrier and Iron Curtain and live there, and that's fascinating to people. So thank you for confirming to us. Please thank her for us, and thank you for staying with us. And we tried to do this earlier, and we just felt like you deserved more time and stuff. So here we are again, several months later.
Guys, I'm at your service always.
Thank you,
really.
man. We are at yours as well, too. DP, I almost said DB.
DB, TP, it's all the same.
Well, DB has got musical connotations. So that's what's so cool about it. DP, take us home.
Hey, guys, I was just sitting here thinking, what a great lesson for today's world. I think you should be mostly known for one thing, but I think you should have a skill set that allows you to do anything. And you can see from David that that served him well. And I think in today's world, there's so many opportunities that we miss because we're known for one thing. We don't have the skill to jump in and do this and do that, which can lead to this and that, which is a career-making move. So be inspired by this, get more skills. We'll see you next week.
See you.